What is up, guys, and welcome into episode number 74 of the Lou Sports Talk podcast right here on STL Sports Central. As always, all of the content here on STL Sports Central is presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. I'm your host, Ethan Hannaford. He is Dylan Hampel. Dylan, how are you doing tonight, my friend?
I am doing just wonderful. Happy Taco Tuesday to all of you out there who celebrate. I can't wait till after the episode's done to have some tacos, burritos, everything there is, salsa, guacamole. I'm looking forward to it. Happy Taco Tuesday, Ethan.
How do I say this in a way that doesn't get me in trouble? Dylan's family loves tacos. How about that? Is that a good way to put it? Is that a good way to put it in 2025 to where I don't get canceled? Right at the birthing of my broadcast career. I don't want to say anything that's going to get me in trouble. But Dylan and the Hampel family, they love tacos.
Yeah, I threw you a backdoor slider, and you just did a great job laying right off of it and continuing your career. So,
I checked swung though, man. I checked it.
Hey,
I checked it.
He didn't go.
Hey, we have a very exciting and full episode for you guys today. We're going to start off with some Cardinals talk, look at the past week, which had some bumps in the road, as well as should the Cardinals at some point here in the final stretch of the season consider bringing up their number one prospect, JJ Wetherholt. What are some of the pros to that? What are some of the cons to that? What do we think will happen? And then the remainder of the episode. Last week we had our NFL season preview. Well, we're sticking with the gridiron talk this week. Once again, we are going to be diving into college football preview for the 2025 season, which is set to get underway this very weekend. Cannot wait for the action to get going once again. There's some exciting games here coming up in the next couple of days. And TJ Williamson, once again, will be joining us once we hit the college football talk. So super excited to have TG Boy joining us here once again. Dylan, looking forward to getting this one underway. And shall we get to it?
Let's do it, baby.
Perfect. All right, we'll take a very quick pause. When we return, Cards Talk right here on the Lou Sports Talk podcast, presented by STL Sports Central. Welcome back to the Lou Sports Talk podcast on STL Sports Central. Be sure to, if you haven't already, like and subscribe STL Sports Central on YouTube. That way, you can get notified anytime that new content like this very episode is put out. I tell you what, it was one of the best decisions I ever made getting started with STL Sports Central and hitting the notification button, because there's all kinds of good, consistent content being put out right here on YouTube and all the socials as well. So let's go ahead and let's dive into some Cardinals talk. We have to start off with the bad, and the bad is this. The roller coaster ride continues. We talked about it a little bit in last week's episode, Dylan, how it just seems like the Cardinals cannot quite build a consistent rhythm of quality baseball. We'll see it look really good for a handful of days, and then all of a sudden you have stretches like you saw last week where the Cardinals dropped 5 straight, 3 of them to the New York Yankees, 2 to the Colorado Rockies, one of the worst teams in baseball history, I might add, before that Yankees series. Overall, very disappointing. And last week, when it was Brandon and I, we were discussing the encouraging signs that we had seen in the Cardinals matchups up to that point against both the Cubs and the Dodgers, taking 4 of 6 against 2 very talented teams. And all of a sudden, because the Mets had been struggling, the Cardinals were back in the wild card mix. Well, unfortunately, the Cardinals had an opportunity if they would have been able to take the series against the Rockies. You look at the schedule for the remainder of August going into September, and you're saying, boy, it looks pretty favorable. Things could get interesting here. Well, they completely fumbled the bag against the Rockies, and they did not, it felt like, even show up to the ballpark this weekend against the Bronx Bombers. And once again, this young, inconsistent style of play continues for St. Louis, unfortunately.
Yeah, as the wise Katy Perry once said, this team is hot and cold. You go back and forth of having good stretches, and then obviously, as you touched on, as of late, losing their second series of the year to the 2025 Colorado Rockies, one of the worst teams in history, like you said, and then getting swept at home by the Yankees, coming to town and were able to pull a victory out last night, pulled away late against the Marlins as we're recording here. But just continued inconsistency. Some games the offense would be putting 6, 7, 8 runs up on the board and yielding 10, 12 runs. So they'd still lose, or they'd be getting shut out by the Rockies. There's overall, I would say it's been decent starting pitching for the most part, but there's still been a lot left to desire the last week or so on both sides of the ball for the Cardinals. The bullpen has been, oddly enough, one of the bright spots, it seems like, overall this season. Not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I would say the last week or so, while it's been up and down for the Cardinals, the bullpen has been able to hold their own for the most part. But yes, not a great stretch of games for the Cardinals.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you touched on something that I was going to bring up, right? It just felt like during that 5-game stretch, one aspect of the team would be gelling and in rhythm and looking sharp just in time for your pitching or your hitting, whichever, the opposite, to not be able to put it together. And unfortunately, you're going to have nights, right, where your offense carries or your pitching is really sharp and you have low-scoring contests. That's going to happen. But in large part, you have to be able to get enough contributing from every piece to be able to win games. At least that's what good baseball teams do. You look at, for example, the Milwaukee Brewers right now. They don't have a player that has an OPS over 800. Yet they are the best team in Major League Baseball. Right now, I know they just got Brandon Woodruff back. I know that Jacob Mezorowski in his young career has been really good, but would you argue that they have that starter per se, or excuse me, that ace per se right now? Maybe you do, more so than the Cardinals, but they're still top 3 in baseball in team ERA. So I mean, but what allows them to be so good is playing consistent baseball and getting contributions from every part of their team on a night in and night out basis. And unfortunately for the Cardinals, they just haven't gotten that. So you're going to look for St. Louis down the stretch here. If they can start putting together more contests like they did on Monday night, right, where you get decent starting pitching, the bullpen looks sharp, but you also get some contributions from the offense. They produce 8 runs. They get a little bit of power in there. They take advantage of some defensive blunders from the Marlins. I think that's a good model to build your game after if your manager Ali Marmol. Now, let's go ahead and let's talk about some of these injuries here because we do want to get to our main subject in just a moment. On Monday afternoon, the Cardinals sent Brendan Donovan, their all-star, their 2025 all-star, to the 10-day IL due to left groin tightness, an injury that has been nagging Donnie for some time now. Since August 9th, Donovan had to miss 5 games as a result. The move is retroactive to August 15th, and the Cards' corresponding move was recalling Jose Fermin, who has played some shortstop, some second base, a little bit of outfield. So they recall him from AAA Memphis over the last 3 seasons. Fermin batting just .211, I believe, a .575 OPS at the major league level. He's been, I think, what a lot of people would categorize as a 4A player, right? Where he can hit really well in AAA, but it's not proven to be a consistent Major League Baseball player at this point. However, he has, in his limited sample size at the Major League level this year, looked pretty sharp, 7 hits and 20 at-bats, as well as a couple of extra bases in there that have helped that OPS actually be over 1,000. So in the small sample size, it's been decent from Fermin this year. However, regardless, Jose Fermin is not the name that you look at if you're a Cardinals fan at this point, where all you're doing is having your eyes set on the future, on 2026 and beyond. Jose Fermin is not the middle infielder that Cardinal fans are looking at when they're expecting to have someone of that position brought up. JJ Wetherholt, on the other hand, who plays the middle infield as well as third base for the Cardinals, has been blasting the baseball in AAA Memphis. 26 games as we record, a .310 batting average, 9 home runs, a on-base percentage over 400. His OPS is 1,073 as we sit here today. Those 9 home runs, well, he's hit 9 in his entire minor league career, but combined between this year and the last year in single A and double A. So the power has been unlocked over these past 3 to 4 weeks with the Memphis Redbirds. And Dylan, a lot of people, I think, were hoping that this would be the time that you would get to see JJ Wetherholt. I'm curious, are you surprised? Are you disappointed? Did you expect this? What are your thoughts overall on the Cardinals' decision to, at least for now, not go ahead and recall their number one prospect?
Yeah, I would say it'd be hard not to be disappointed, right? If you're all of Cardinal Nation, it feels like is ready to see this guy at the major league level. I mean, had the potential to be a number one overall draft pick just a year ago, and yeah, I mean, you look at how he's ripping the cover off the ball in Memphis, and this really seemed like the moment, like you said, because the conversation up to this point has been, okay, well, where are you going to put him? Because you have Brendan Donovan at second base as your long-term second baseman. And so I know there were some conversations, I mean, speculation, not from the team, but speculation of, okay, would they move Donovan to third and bring Weatherholt up eventually? But this is as clear of an opportunity as I feel like there would have been having an injury to your starting second baseman in Brendan Donovan to see JJ Wetherholt. And so I don't know how, I guess, yes, it is surprising, but it also, if you go back and listen to John Mozeliak's, some of his interviews from earlier in the season, it doesn't seem like he's in any hurry to get JJ Wetherholt up at the major league level. My question would be, is this more so to do with, not wanting to rush development, even though he's clearly doing well in AAA, or do you think it's more of is there any financial aspect to this to where, okay, the sooner we bring him up, the sooner we would theoretically have to pay him down the line, a larger contract? Do you think that factors into this at all, or do you think this is purely a development question?
It is true that if the Cardinals were to recall him now, they'd have to start his clock a little bit earlier. So there is that to take into consideration. But the Cardinals proved in 2023 when recalling Mason Wynn that didn't matter. What mattered, right, was the development of, at the time, their number one prospect. And we know how everything turned out with Mason Wynn. The end of 2023 was not good for him. I think he batted a $174. And it was pretty bumpy. But boy, how that stretch of a month, 2 months, somewhere in between there, ended up contributing, I think, to him being able to hit the ground running in 2024. And you've seen what he has been able to be offensively the last couple of years. It's far beyond expectation for what I think was set for him during his time in the minors. I think originally you said Mason Wynn, man, if he could bat 230, bat 8 in your lineup, and play Gold Glove defense, which he definitely has done that part, then you're going to be fine. The offense up to this point has been a plus. And the way that Ollie Marmol talks about it, he thinks that he's only going to get better offensively. So, yes, that goes a little bit beyond how they handled him in 2023. But I think those couple of months for how they used him in 23 proved to be really important. Now, I will say this. So I say that to say I don't think it's necessarily a financial decision, because the Cardinals, even in recent years, have proven that doesn't necessarily matter, specifically in the case of Mason Wynn. Here's what I will say. JJ Wetherholt has played 26 games at the AAA level. Has he looked amazing? Yes, he's looked very good. And fans should want him up. I get it. Right now, there is not a lot about this roster at this point in the season that gets you excited. So why not bring a piece up that's going to excite you? That's going to say, okay, here we go. This is the guy. He's supposed to be the guy of the future. Why not let the fans get a little bit of a taste? Here's why not. The Cardinals have had a couple of number one prospects in recent memory that they have rushed to this level, and it hasn't worked out. Jordan Walker being one of them. I mean, you could even throw it back to Dylan Carlson. Those are the two main ones that come to mind. Here's my thought process with JJ Wetherholt. If the only reason to bring him up is giving the fans a taste of the future, then it's purposeless. If there was a pro to it, Dylan, I think you would agree with this. It's to give him a taste of the majors. But who is going to be affected by that if you do give him that opportunity? Now, this would have been the perfect time if they were going to do that. This, in my opinion, tells me that they aren't going to do it this year. Because if there would have been a time to do it, it would have had to be because of an injury where an everyday spot would have opened up. And this would have been an opportunity for JJ Wetherholt to play every day. Once Donovan's healthy, Where are you going to play JJ Wetherholt? You won't play at second because that's Donnie every day. Shortstop's Mason Wins for the next however many years. Third base, well, they're trying to get Nolan Gorman as many reps as they can right now to figure out if he's going to be a part of the future or not. He's been really good also at the plate the last 2.5 months or so. He's got an OPS in the mid 800s. He's tied for the team lead in home runs. His walk rate is up. There's a lot of things about Nolan Gorman that are working really well right now, and I'm very encouraged by. Well, let's say, what if you want to move Brendan Donovan to the outfield? Well, Brendan Donovan hasn't played in the outfield for a good chunk of the season. You also already have corner outfielders that you're wanting to continue getting opportunities. Lars Nootbaar's out there. You got to find a spot for Alec Burleson, Jordan Walker as well. There is so much redundancy on this roster that I don't think it makes sense, unless there were to be an injury, to bring up a guy like JJ Wetherholt. Well, then you're saying, Ethan, there is an injury right now. JJ, this is the time. I don't think the Cardinals want to rush him. I don't think they want to rush him. I think that they would rather play it safe. You're not going to hurt JJ Wetherholt's development by letting him play the remainder of the season in AAA. I know fans don't want to hear that, and I know that he's looked really good, but I'll say this. It hasn't even been a month. How many players this year have you watched play for a month and you're like, oh, yeah, I got a beat on them. I know what they're doing. That's what they are. It just doesn't happen, especially for young players. I would be really surprised if the Cardinals were to bring JJ Wetherholt up at this point. And honestly, I'm okay with it, because if the Cardinals don't hit with Wetherholt, then how much longer does it extend this period of rebuilding, resetting? I think at least a chunk, because you expect him to be that middle of the lineup guy. That's what you expect him to be, a 2 guy, a 5 guy in your lineup. So I know I just threw a word salad on you, Dylan. What are your thoughts? I am okay with them not recalling him. Do you agree with that? Do you disagree with that? I want to hear your thoughts.
I agree with it for the most part, because like you said, there's not really an advantage to bringing him up right now if you're so far, removed from potential playoff contention. I mean, it's not like, yeah, we need this guy for a playoff push. I guess it's not fair to compare to hockey, but you look at Jimmy Snuggerud being brought up. At that time, the Blues weren't in the playoff spot that they ended up securing, but they were pushing for it. And this is a different situation for the Cardinals, to where JJ Wetherholt would not, okay, now all of a sudden the Cardinals are a playoff team. But yes, I'm disappointed by it, because it'd be exciting to see him, but I'm okay with it like you are as well, because of the that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, okay, this has to be a development issue. It can't be a financial issue, because of the previous prospects that you listed. You could even throw Nolan Gorman in there of guys totally that were brought up of, okay, did this happen too early? And now they're trying to figure things out at the major league level, and it's not going the way that the organization had hoped it had gone, particularly with Jordan Walker and Dylan Carlson, who's no longer a member of the team. So I wonder if it will have any impact on his 2026, potential arrival. And it's not a question we would ever know the answer to, but just to be a fly on the wall and hear those conversations between Chaim Bloom and Mozeliak on Wetherholt would have been interesting. And I'm assuming, obviously, they were in agreement to not have him up here. But you're talking word salad. I'm throwing another word salad right back at you. But it's definitely a letdown, but I understand it, and it's better to wait and have his development be proper than rush him up and it not make a difference on the 2025 season.
And let's say this, 2026, for all we know, may be another year for not a lot of expectation competing at the top level wise, so maybe JJ Wetherholt is on the 2026 roster, expected to have a starting spot just about every day. Maybe the expectation, maybe the pressure is not there, because the Cardinals aren't expected to be a World Series contender next year. I don't think that they will be. I would be surprised if they are to be prior to the next CBA, because I don't think you're going to see them spend. We know all the pitching injuries they've had at the minor league level. So maybe that creates a little bit less pressure for JJ Wetherholt. and then all of a sudden you can allow him to be what he needs to be. A lot of it's going to depend on also the offseason moves that they make. How much room do they clear? Hopefully it's enough to where Wetherholt doesn't have to be looking behind him, worrying about if a guy's going to take over his spot. There's a lot of time to continue discussing this further. Maybe if he does this for another 2 or 3 weeks and continues mashing and has an 1100 OPS, maybe the Cardinals' hand gets twisted. Maybe the front office's hand. They said, we can't do it anymore. He's forced our hand. But time will tell. Time will tell. And there's a lot of further conversation to be had on the handling of JJ Wetherholt. We're going to go ahead and take a quick pause. We have kept TJ Williamson waiting long enough. College football preview coming up. We're going to dive specifically into Mizzou, the Fighting Illini, the local teams. But we're also going to touch nationally as well on some of the big headlines, what we are looking forward to. So stay right here on the Lou Sports Talk podcast on STL Sports Central. Welcome back to the Lou Sports Talk podcast. I'm Ethan Hannaford. It's Dylan Hampel, and the new addition to the episode, TJ Williamson, the certified football guy. Last week, he joined to preview the NFL season, which is still a few weeks away. Just had week 2 of the preseason. But what is right around the corner is the start of the college football season. A handful of games, FBS games, getting started this very weekend. And then the following weekend, you have some absolute barn burner matchups that are set to get underway. So it is here most definitely. And it's great to have you back on, TJ.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. Dylan, good to see you with the threads. Likewise, my friend. It'll be fun to root for Mizzou this year too, though. Yeah, for sure.
So let's go ahead and let's dive into it. It was a busy offseason for college football. Last year, with a little bit of almost the end of a reign, I guess you could say, Nick Saban retires, and all of a sudden it opens up the field that much more, right? It feels like the field evened out so much in 2024, and the college football playoff kind of told that story. It didn't feel like at any point there was ever that one team that was the team to beat. And as a result, you had a pretty even field in large part. And I think that you could say something similar about 2025 as well. Now, there have been some changes to some of the playoff formats and some of those different things. But just overall, I want to hear your guys' thoughts as to what you are looking forward to the most for this upcoming season, whether it be, I mean, you can jump into a specific headline if you have one, or if you just look more so kind of looking at it with a wide lens. What are you excited about for the upcoming college football season? I'll start with you, TJ.
Yeah, so I think a lot of really good games in week 0 to 1. You've got Texas versus Ohio State. I think everybody wants to see Julian Sayin, whether he's legit or not, and Arch, obviously. A lot of good quarterback matchups the first week. LSU versus Clemson. You got Nussmeier versus Klubnik. There's a chance that's, first, second round quarterback talent right there. And then battle of the Big 12, Iowa State versus Kansas State. That's just week 1. For the season as a whole, though, I'm super, super excited. I think that it's been, honestly, for me, it's been a little exhausting watching Brady Cook. I like Brady Cook. He's just a little plain Jane, little Matt Ryan for me to watch. And so it'll be interesting to see who wins that quarterback battle. We'll talk more about that later. And obviously, Arch Manning, it'd be silly not to include Arch Manning and why you're excited for this season. It's probably one of the most storied quarterbacks to come out of high school in a very long time, probably since even Trevor Lawrence.
Dylan?
Yeah, agree on Arch Manning. It feels like we've been having the build up to him arriving, on the big stage for 4 or 5 years at this point. So finally getting to see him, QB1 starting at Texas. This is his team. They're the preseason number 1. Like, there's a lot of hype surrounding him. And as Saints fans, hopefully he does well so we can take him the number 1 overall pick we're about to earn by going
if he goes to the
14. Yeah, fair enough. But looking forward to seeing, what he's like because, in the limited sample size last season, he did have some struggles against some of the bigger name teams. So it'll be interesting to see how he kind of grows into his role throughout the season. But I'm just intrigued by all of the unpredictability and the unknowns that the 12-team playoff has opened up, and just this turnover that we've had this last season. Like looking at the preseason top 10 rankings, I think I counted 3 teams that are returning their starting quarterbacks from last year. And so there's a whole lot of question marks on a lot of the supposed to be the best teams in football. So seems to be another, year of you have your upper echelon teams, but it's also pretty wide open and not a clear-cut Bama over here with Mr. Saban running the show for 15, 20 years. So looking forward to seeing how it plays out. Go ahead.
You also add in the effect of the transfer. We've had 2 years of data at this point to kind of see, can a team live off the transfer portal? Is it just the icing on top of the cake? And I think year 3, if a coach could figure out how to access the transfer portal and have it be more than just fluff, more than just 1 or 2 really good pieces. We think back to Colorado, Deion Sanders, his first season with Colorado, they had the highest amount of people from the transfer portal, and they looked hot for like 3 weeks, and then they started to falter because their team chemistry wasn't there. And so I'm really interested also to see the transfer portal continue to evolve.
I can't remember the last time that a quarterback had more hype around him than Arch Manning. I mean, this guy had the highest NIL in college sports and wasn't even starting. I mean, it is just absolutely insane. Now, obviously, the last name helps, and the hype had been around him since his sophomore, junior year of high school. But to finally be at the point where there's been so much anticipation to see it finally be his QB room, to be his team, I think I'm really excited for. I'm really excited to see how he and Steve Sarkisian gel together and what that Texas team looks like. I agree completely with you, Dylan, as well. You look at some of these headlines, there isn't that team that just blows you out of the water, though. Even with Texas being the number 1 team, there's still so many question marks around what a full season of Arch Manning will look like. And I think you take all that into consideration. Some of the tweaks that they made to the 12-team playoff, I think will be good for it, specifically with how they qualified those top 4 seeds. Now the buys will be going to the at-large bids. I think that's going to be really good for the playoff. It's going to reward the best teams rather than the conference champions because, as we know, not all 4 of the Power 4 conferences are equal. All right, Dylan.
What do you mean by that? What do you say?
Can we get an acknowledgement, Dylan? Can we get an acknowledgement?
We've been talking about this for 4 years. We'd think you'd know by now what we're talking about.
I make one take and I become the defender of the ACC for life.
You made a lightning take in that natty one night. You fought 3 people off with a piece of, I don't know, something.
With a pool noodle.
Oh man. And somehow you survived. Somehow you're still kicking it and rolling along. For those that don't know, Dylan was a massive advocate a couple years ago, Florida State getting in the playoff over Alabama. And let's just say he had some disagreement in the group, and it was a pretty entertaining college football episode.
We love you, Don.
We love you.
We get a chance. Hey, I'll still talk. I'll have that debate any day of the week, baby.
Any day that ain't been a while.
Jordan Travis is going to the NFL Hall of Fame.
Oh, geez.
Oh my goodness.
Car salesman now.
So let's go ahead and let's dive into some of the local college football talk. We don't have a team in St. Louis per se, but we got 2 that are just a couple of hours away. And for the first time in how many years, both the Illinois Fighting Illini and the Missouri Tigers are expected to be really good college football teams. And as someone that's just kind of in the middle saying, I just want everyone to have fun, I absolutely love that. I love that for the market, for the region, the attention that could bring. I only wish that the arch rivalry was still a thing because, boy, would this be the year for it. Bring back the arch rivalry to St. Louis. We're bringing it back. We got to bring it back. But anyway, let's go ahead and let's take a dive into the Missouri Tigers, who start off the year receiving votes not in the AP preseason top 25. If they were 7th in receiving votes, so if it were to extend, right, that'd be 32nd overall in the country. A lot of question marks for this Mizzou team going into this season. As you mentioned a moment ago, TJ, new at quarterback, but also new at a lot of positions. There's a QB battle going on in camp right now. They're set to get the season underway here in a little over a week. They'll face off against Central Arkansas. So I imagine it'll be an opportunity to see both of those quarterbacks, regardless of who is starting the opening drive of the 2025 season. So let's go ahead and let's just start with the Missouri Tigers. When you guys look at this teams, I want to hear what you like, what you don't like, what concerns you. Let's dive into the MIZ.
Yeah, I can start. I would say it's definitely less of an anticipatory, offseason going into the season than it was last year for the Tigers, coming off of that Cotton Bowl win against Ohio State, retaining, all of their core players that were returning for their senior year, Brady Cook and Luther Burden and Armand Membu, all three of whom are now in the NFL. There was a lot of anticipation going into this season for the previous season for Mizzou. Not as much this year. I would say it's a slightly lower level. Like you said, they're not ranked in the preseason, but they're on the fringe. They're, like you said, ranked 32nd. And it feels like the end, start of a new era for Mizzou as Brady Cook, a 3-year starter, moves on to the NFL. But there's actually a more retained and of the same DNA to this team than would first appear to meet the eye. They're returning, I believe, 14 starters, 6 from the offensive side of the ball and 8 on the defensive side of the ball. They return their leading tackler from last season. And, I mean, we can talk more about the quarterback battle in a little bit, but there's Coach Eli Drinkwitz did a very good job in the transfer portal going out and getting Bo Perbula from Penn State, the backup to Drew Aller. He's going to have 2 years of eligibility remaining. He's a redshirt junior. And then also you look at the new running back that they brought in, Ahmad Hardy. He had close to 1,400 yards rushing last season. Granted, it was at Louisiana Monroe, but he also brought in Kevin Coleman Jr. from Mississippi State to be a top target for either Bo Perbula or Sam Horn. So I would say it's not as much anticipation going into this season as there was last year. It felt like last year, okay, we're expanding to a 12-team playoff. Mizzou has a weak schedule. This is their playoff spot to lose. I would say Mizzou is more of a playoff hopeful, and it would be pretty surprising to me, at least, if they ended up making it into the 12-team playoff this year. But I still think they can hover in and around the top 25.
TJ?
Yeah. Let's be honest. I mean, the roster that we had last year was great at Mizzou. I think we peaked at the Ohio State game for their junior year. I think that there's expectation of imagine another year of having that. But you add that in with the expectations that come with being a top target team. People are out to get you. You think about guys like, I don't know, I think of NFL guys like Matt Ryan, who won the MVP, and the second they got in the Super Bowl, they couldn't quite clinch the Super Bowl. And so, similarly, Brady Cook, in the bigger moments, it didn't seem like the team was able to carry him, more or less. Great quarterback for college, but not the guy you probably want leading yourself to the college football playoff. For me, I think there are 9 returning defensive players. Dylan mentioned it. The DNA is similar. It's not exactly the same as it used to be. Obviously, we are going to miss Luther Burden. We're going to miss Brady Cook, and we're going to miss Armand Membu. But you add in the fact that we have 4 or 5 legitimate people in the SEC that we're actually contending against as far as people we play in our schedule this year. We play against Alabama. We play against South Carolina. We play against Auburn. We play against Texas A&M. But because we play against those guys, that means we don't play against Georgia. We don't play against Texas. We don't play against LSU with a collegiate, NFL-style quarterback. We also have our only, legitimate non-conference games against Kansas, and we play them at home. So, all things considered, we've caught a couple of breaks.
Coming off a 5-7 season too. It's not the Kansas team you thought they were going to have at the beginning of last year. Anyway, go ahead.
No. Yeah, you're right. You also add in that we got 2 pretty big recruits. The 4-star wide receiver out of Mississippi State, Kevin Coleman, which was just mentioned. His NFL comp supposedly is Deebo Samuel. I don't know how much weight to put into that. But we also got a 5-star defensive end from Georgia, Damon Wilson II. He was it looked like at least he was a little buried. He didn't get the opportunities he could have gotten out of Mizzou because Georgia is so deep as far as defensive players are considered. So I think Damon Wilson's going to kind of help bridge the gap for a lot of the losses that we made as far as putting pressure on the quarterback, helping out in the run defense, all that stuff. And then obviously the only problem that I really see is just we view them lower, and we probably have a more realistic version of what they're supposed to be. And obviously I'm not a big fan of hearing Eli Drinkwitz say that he's going to have each quarterback start in the first game. I know it's sort of customary, but I'd rather just have a starter right off the bat.
So let's go ahead and let's talk about this quarterback battle. You got Sam Horn, who's been there a couple of years, just got drafted by the Dodgers. I mean, he's viewed more so right as the pass-heavy guy. And then you got Bo Pribula, the transfer from Penn State. I think he's making like $1 million in NIL. I mean, he's making a pretty penny this year. But you have Bo Pribula, a little more dual threat guy, can run the ball, can use his feet a little bit. Not as good of a passer or pure passer as Sam Horn, but brings different styles of offense and can mix things up, keep defenses off balance. When you guys look at this quarterback battle, what are your takeaways from both of these guys? Who are you personally leaning towards? And as well, what direction do you think would make sense for the Tigers to go? TJ, do you want to start off with this one?
Yeah, sure. So I tend to lean that if you're trying to keep the fans engaged, new is better. Sam Horn hasn't really won over a lot of fans from what I've gathered. And I think some fans might be a little bit tired of the Brady Cook experiment, having a pocket passer. I think that at worst, you have a exciting guy who you can put out there for a couple weeks in Bo Pribula. If he lands on his face, you know it's not legit, and you go back to this basically the same offense you were running last year. But you have an opportunity to catch a couple teams off guard at the beginning, especially, and maybe develop something really special, because a lot of college football teams need and rely on your dual threat quarterbacks. It's a changing game. I think Mizzou needs to get with the times too. So my vote, Bo Pribula, but I'm also, I just am kind of tired of a pocket passer at quarterbacks. So.
That's fair. Dylan?
I completely agree with you, TJ. I think this is Bo Pribula's spot to lose. And Ethan, he's getting $1.5 million in NIL money. So
thank you. You only helped my case further.
Yes, my opinion, you don't pay a guy that much to come in and be a backup. You know, he entered the portal during Penn State's playoff run last year when it was clear that Drew Aller was going to be returning. You know, they wasn't sure if he was going to be declaring for the NFL draft, but at that point, he was like, okay, my future is not as a starting quarterback of Penn State. So, yes, his play style, definitely he has more of the dual threat ability, whereas you look at a guy like Brady Cook, he had some scrambling ability, but he more so, if he was outside the pocket, he would be kind of roaming and still looking to throw downfield. Pribula will tuck and run. You know, he reminds me, I mean, it's a pretty on-the-nose comparison, but he reminds me of a guy like Trace McSorley from a few years ago that was, you know, a pretty solid starter for Penn State for several years. And so, I mean, Pribula was only a 3-star recruit coming out of high school, but both of these guys, both him and Sam Horn, I think are both very green. And so either way, you're looking to just get a guy experience. And I think Pribula, that's a good idea, TJ. Start Pribula, and if he falls on his face, you have Sam Horn to fall back on, and it's not a drastically different offense, like you said, TJ, from last season. And another thing to add that is benefiting the Tigers this year, I just wanted to touch on real quickly, is that they once again have the easiest schedule in the SEC, and the teams that you mentioned being hard for them to play, Alabama, A&M, and South Carolina, those are all home games. And like you said, they avoid Georgia, Texas, LSU, and Tennessee. So there's a lot to be excited about for this team. Maybe not, you know, a 10 or 11 win team, but like the previous 2 seasons. But going back to the last 2 years, only Georgia has won more games in the SEC. Georgia's the only SEC team that has won more games the last 2 seasons than Mizzou. So it could be another 8-9 win season easily, especially if Bo Pribula hits the ground running, I would say.
Yeah, personally, I would be shocked if they didn't win at least 8 games. That feels like a floor, but they just don't have a very high ceiling. So
I think I saw that the over-under was set at 7.5. Is that what I saw?
No.
I might be wrong on that.
hit it.
Smash the over.
Hit it.
That feels a little bit low to me. I feel like 8.5 would be a little bit more back and forth. I guess the question marks at quarterback specifically, I know they have a some question marks on the line as well. But let's just be honest. Quarterback play reigns supreme. It is king in football, at least at the college and professional level. So I think perhaps that's the reason why it's low. But to me, and it sounds like you guys agree, the Tigers you're viewing more so as an 8 to 9 win team. And maybe Dylan saying there's the potential to go higher. TJ, not necessarily. Is that kind of more so what we're seeing rather than, I mean, like I said, 7.5 seems a little low.
Yeah, I think that Mizzou definitely deserves to be in the top 25. I'll give them that. Like, I think their 8 to 10 would be probably where I see them fluctuating between. And I'm not a big fan of the strategy of a coach saying we're not going to name our starter until the last minute. It feels like you're trying to scrape for every potential advantage, but it's giving you like a game advantage. And who do we even play week 1? Like Georgia Southern or something. And so, like, I don't know if we're going to have trouble taking care of business against those guys. For me, 8 to 10 wins. It really just depends on a couple of possessions here and there between the big dogs. If we can go 50%, if we can go 2-2 against those 4 colleges I had mentioned earlier, who are going to be tough. It's no cakewalk, but it's not your Texases, your Georgias. Then I think we'll get 9 or 10 wins. But the floor for me would be 8.
Yeah, I think, Ethan, another reason for why the over-under was set at 7.5 is there are a lot of questions on the offensive line with the departure of Armand Membu. I think they only have one returning starter, which is one of their guards in Caden Green from last season. And so they brought in 2 transfers from Wake Forest and West Virginia, but a lot of questions on the O-line, I would say, going into the season. So that's probably another reason why the over-under was only 7.5. But if you look on the defensive side of the ball, they were ranked 17th in the nation last year, and I would not be surprised if they had another top 20 unit this season. They returned a lot of starters, and they brought in the Big 12 Defensive Freshman of the Year in linebacker Josiah Trotter, also from West Virginia, and he'll probably be the only non-upperclassmen that's starting on that defense. So a lot of experience being retained on the defensive side of the ball. And yes, not as high of a ceiling as what Mizzou fans thought going into last season, but yeah, 8 to 10, I think is a solid range.
I personally could not believe that this Tigers team was not ranked in the preseason top 25. I know there's some question marks, but I mean, when you look at what they've done the last couple of seasons, back-to-back 10-win seasons, it's very rare that you have an SEC team win that many games and not be ranked in the top 20. Now, does it matter? No, I think that they're going to be a consistent in the mix top 25 team throughout the season. I think they'll finish in the top 25. I think playoff might be stretching it a little bit. Maybe if we had a 28 team format that has been recently proposed by the Big Ten. Speaking of the Big Ten, let's go ahead and switch to the other local team, the Illinois Fighting Illini, who are ranked in the top 25 to start off the season, 12th. Let me ask you guys this. Trivia time. When was the last time Illinois was ranked as high as 12th in the country? Have at it.
When was electricity invented?
When was the wheel created?
Around the woolly mammoth era.
The last time, boys, that they were ranked as high as 12th in the country was 2001.
I was not alive.
Oh, that's even more disturbing. And then the last time that they were ranked as high as they are in the preseason poll, 1990. 35 years ago. It's been a rough run for the Fighting Illini when it comes to football, but Brett Bielema has that program in the best spot that it has been in a long time. He has a lot of things it feels like going for them. I know I just saw the other day that the student section is sold out for the year, so clearly there's some excitement on campus and nationally as well. We know that 12 teams make the playoff. They're number 12 right now. So I mean that should tell you something right there as far as how the country views them. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on the Fighting Illini. What is to be expected this year? What do you like? What do you not like? TJ, you want to go ahead and start?
Yeah, sure. I'll let you guys maybe talk a little bit about the quarterback, unless you want to pass it to me. But Illinois, and my deep dive of them, I looked at the recruiting numbers the past couple of years to see like how legit are the teams that they're making, and they were 47th 3 years ago in recruiting, 49th 2 years ago in recruiting, and 40th this past year, which means their team is made up of ballpark average of the 45th best accumulated roster. Now, you guys mentioned it, coaching matters a lot. And a lot of their team is some of it's transfer built from seniors that want some redemption from their careers. Others are, used to being the underdog. And this kind of just reminds me of a mix and a kind of flipping of the script of what Mizzou was last year, being a higher rated team, supposed to have an easy schedule, potential playoff hype. And now you look at this Illinois team who, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, we just talked about how long it's been since they've been in preseason top 15. I don't remember there ever being the word Illinois in playoffs and in recent conversations on any sports media of any type. And so it feels like it'd be a lot harder to be the top dog. And it feels like this is the most top dog Illinois has really ever been. Whereas the underdog idea that they were last year, part of me is worried if they overperformed a little bit. Some things to note that are beneficial for Illinois. They have 16 starters coming back from last year. That is tied for the most in the country. They have Gabe Akis, who was going to go to the NFL but decided to come back as a potential NFL early rounder. He goes back and forth between middle linebacker and outside linebacker. If you guys watched the Michigan game, he had like 2.5 sacks, a forced fumble, a lot of really good stuff. Luke Altmaier had 22 touchdowns, and I think he had a couple of interceptions. And all in all, I mean, it seems like the flag is flying high for Illinois, but my question is, can they keep it up? Like, is this the norm, or have they reached their peak similar to Mizzou after they beat Ohio State?
Well, let me go ahead and just throw their schedule at you, and then you tell me what you think this Illinois team can do this season. Obviously, we know that the Big Ten has gotten a lot more difficult in the past year with the additions of all those Pac-12 teams, Oregon getting in the mix. You have Washington in there as well, USC. So the Big Ten is a lot tougher than it used to be. Now, with that being considered, listen to this schedule. They start off the year with Western Illinois. That'll be a gimme. And then they go on the road to play Duke. This will probably be one of the tougher matches on their schedule. They're back home against Western Michigan. Then they're on the road against 20th ranked Indiana. Then they host USC at Purdue. Biggest game of the year will be on October 11th when they are hosting number 3 Ohio State. Then they go on the road to Washington. They finish the year with Rutgers, Maryland, Wisconsin, and Northwestern. I look at that schedule and I see potential for it to be pretty favorable to them. Yes, could they absolutely fumble? Yes, they definitely could. But it's also very realistic in my eyes when you look at that schedule and say the Illini could clear with being a 10-2 team. That schedule is enough of a cakewalk, and we know that there's no longer divisions in the Big Ten. Would that be enough to get them an appearance in the Big Ten championship? It could very well be. So a lot of it, I think, also has to do with how favorable the matchups are for them. But I got to say, I look at that schedule and I think it looks pretty good for the Illini.
Yeah, the cat is definitely out of the bag from last season. You look at Illinois, they were a 9-win team last year, 9-3, and 2 of those losses came to Oregon and Penn State on the road. And so I think barring the Minnesota last year, they arguably could have made the college football playoff last season. And it feels like, at least on paper to me, this is Illinois right now is kind of in the same position that Mizzou fans were in 2023 season going into last season, where it was like, okay, they've shown us, they've kind of had an unexpected run to success, and they've shown us what they can do, and they've retained, like you said, TJ, 16 starters. I think the team they're tied with is Clemson, who is obviously ranked 4th in the country to start the season, so good company to be in. But you look at where they're at, and you see, okay, it's all in front of them. It's theirs to lose, which is what people were saying about Mizzou last season with the easy schedule Mizzou had last season. And I would say Illinois has a tougher schedule this season than Mizzou did last year, but it's all out there right in front of them. Like you said, Ethan, the biggest game of the year against Ohio State. I was looking at some of those ticket prices just out of curiosity, if you want to get a hotel, not even the tickets, if you want to get a hotel in Champaign, Illinois, it is going to cost you a minimum of $850 if you want to be in town to see Ohio State come to town. So it's fans are riding high, to say the least, on Fighting Illini.
They're going to cash in.
If you're an Illini fan trying to get to that one, maybe make some friends in Champaign relatively quickly, because the demand for that one, even before the season is underway, is very high. You mentioned their quarterback, Luke Altmaier, earlier, TJ. This is a guy that this will be his third year as the starting quarterback for the Illini, and you don't have a lot of teams, especially to the level that Illinois is this year, with returning quarterbacks, let alone with third-year quarterbacks. We know that 23 was a disappointing season, but he had a lot of improvement last year, both the touchdowns and the yards, was much more disciplined, less turnovers. And of course, he was the heartbeat of getting them to 10 wins for the first time since 2000. I think it was 2001 was the last time that they won double-digit contests, which, like I said, a lot of misery up in Champaign for a long time when it comes to football. So, I said earlier, quarterback is king. This is in a year where there are so many question marks around the remainder of college football as far as who can step up and be that guy. Brett Bielema has a guy that has already done it for him, and he has experience with them. They have that chemistry, and I have to wonder how far that will carry this Illinois team, especially, like I said, when you partner it up with a weaker schedule, TJ.
Yeah, I mean, just honestly, just looking at the schedule, and I would agree with you on all the stuff regarding the quarterback. Like, you look back at popular quarterbacks from the past who are multi-year starters, your Brock Purdy's, your Baker Mayfields, like those guys were good because of their experience. And Altmaier clearly has the experience similar to that of Rocco Becht from Iowa State and Avery Johnson from Kansas State. Like those guys are going to be solid competitors. The 12-team playoff opens up the championship window for them. But I think 4 years ago, we're not looking at Illinois. We're looking at them as like maybe a 5-6 seed at the highest, but I don't think we're looking at them as a top 4 seed. Yeah. Looking at this, I think that Indiana's a questionable game. Like, were they legit last year and that's carrying into this year? Was it all transfer portal for Indiana? USC is always a question mark because Lincoln Riley seems to never have a defense, and Illinois has what looks like a pretty complete team, at least as far as the scouting report says. Purdue, I feel like, has been giving sneaky games in the past couple of years, so there'll be some fight there. I think Ohio State's a pretty easy win for Ohio State. Washington's always a quality program. You can give a win to them for Rutgers. I think the last 3 games of the season will be a little bit more difficult than anticipated. An away game, a home game at Maryland. Hopefully they take care of that after a long season. You go on the road to Wisconsin, who always plays them hard, and then you go back home to Northwestern or to play Northwestern. Local team, a little bit of rivalry there. Yep. Anything could happen. I just think that I'm not going to go all in on the Fighting Illini yet. I might be grossly underestimating the Fighting Illini. I've been more of a Mizzou fan for most of my life compared to Illini, but I'll be excited to watch them.
Yeah, I think there's a part of you, just because they haven't been there in so long, that hopes that they can take advantage of this year, the final year with Altmaier. You just wonder what it will look like beyond the season. Now, like, who knows? Depending on how the season goes, it could really, maybe their recruiting rankings are way up this year. They continue to grow. They get some transfer pieces in. But there's just a lot of question marks beyond this year. This feels like it has the potential, right, to be that peak for them, at least in the near future. Obviously, a lot of question marks. We don't know that for sure. Just a hunch. So a lot of excitement around both of the local St. Louis-ish market teams, which I think is good for us. It's good for the market. And you hope that both of them are able to have some success. A very full college football preview. I know we focused a little bit more on some of the local teams. Not a bad thing necessarily. We will have plenty of opportunity throughout the season to dive into and analyze some of the different games. As you mentioned, TJ, a boatload of top 10 matchups in the first 2 weeks of the season. So there will be plenty to talk about as we continue on. We appreciate all of you joining us right here on the Loose Sports Talk. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X at Loose Sports Talk _ if you haven't already. Follow STL Sports Central on all of those same platforms, and like and subscribe below so that you can get notifications for when all of their content releases, including the Loose Sports Talk. We are also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, so if you don't have the opportunity to watch the episodes, then you can also still go back there and listen when you are on the go. We appreciate you guys joining us for episode number 74, but for now, that's a wrap.